Good morning. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Muck It. We've got 11 horses out here on the property right now, and they create a lot of poop. And we're getting a 12th one in on Friday. So there's plenty of poop to go around for me to pick up. And while I'm doing that, I figure I might as well be making some social media content. And so in these episodes, I just talk about things that I'm learning from horses, about training horses, and then how that affects real life as well, even if you don't have horses. So today, the topic that I wanted to talk about is haters. So it's kind of a funny topic. A lot of you guys know I really like listening to Joe Rogan podcasts. I listen to them all the time, him and Jordan Peterson. And one thing that Joe Rogan says all the time to his guests is, don't read comments. And he's saying that because when you're on social media, and my social media doesn't have 1,000 followers by any means yet. I hope it does someday soon, but it doesn't. But if you're an actual big deal on social media and you've got thousands of followers, and every one of those people is able to comment on your stuff, that's a very different dynamic from everyday life, where you might have, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 people who you really allow to kind of comment on your life and have access to you to give you feedback on whatever you're doing, good or bad. But if you're on social media and you got 1,000 followers that can comment, that's such a larger pool. And Joe Rogan's, point is basically that we're not wired as humans to take that volume of either criticism or good feedback. Either one is just not healthy. And so what he always says is, don't read the comments. And so when we were starting our Durham Versatility Horses Facebook and Instagram and YouTube page, of course, we were pretty small. We still are. But a little plug for our social media. If you're watching this on one of those 3 platforms, please go to the other 2 and like and subscribe to us, because we really want to grow that social media. But anyway, we were not big enough at that point to really have anyone commenting much at all on anything. And there's another venture that I'm a part of right now, which is a band that we're starting. My buddy Jason Wolf started the Jason Wolf Band, and so it's 5 of us, him, myself. We've got a steel guitar player, a drummer, and a bassist. Jason does lead singing and guitar, and I do most of the lead stuff with the steel guitar player. But I play fiddle, banjo, mandolin, sometimes a little electric guitar, stuff like that. Anyway, we do red dirt style music, country covers and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and we're getting pretty big. Getting some really cool gigs this year. And so our social media finally, for the very first time, actually got a negative comment. And same with DVH. We finally got one negative comment on one of our social media posts. And, at first, when you first see a negative comment like that, you get that kind of like, well, a lot of different emotions kind of go through your mind. You kind of think, what did I do wrong? Or you get some anger at that person, like, why can't they see what we're doing is great? Or, there's a lot of different things that go through your head. And then after thinking about those things for a little bit, what I realized was, oh, wait, if we're finally getting negative comments, that means we finally made it to the point that Joe Rogan's talking about. So even though it was only one negative comment on each platform, it was kind of a different way to look at it. It's like, oh, okay, cool. It kind of validates that we're getting to that size. So anyway, but really what I wanted to talk about more with this video is trying to determine who to listen to and who to take criticism from and who to tune out. Because the Joe Rogan approach, just don't read comments, you're basically tuning out all criticism, at least from that platform, of course. I know Joe Rogan would suggest you listen to criticism and constructive criticism from friends and stuff like that, but he's just saying not from the social media platform. But I think it raises a good question. How do we know in life who to take criticism from, or even who to try to learn from and not. So in the horse industry, everybody thinks they know the answer, right? We all know that. And there's a lot of different ways to do everything in the horse industry. Even the kinds of things I'm doing, the more what people call natural horsemanship, there's a lot of different ways to do that. So how do you know when it comes to, especially like horse trainers, who to listen to and who not to? So to answer that question, I want to tell you a little story about the way I got into horses and what I did when I got into horses. Growing up, I was not around horses almost at all. I got to ride maybe a couple days out of an entire year. And those days were typically not like lessons or anything super instructive. It was usually at a summer camp that I'd go to as a kid, and you'd get to ride for maybe an hour on a trail ride, just single file line, get on the horse and go. The horse knew the trails. You're not learning a whole lot about horses in that environment. It was great because it exposed me to horses, and I'm appreciative of that. But what I mean is, by the time I actually got a horse of my own, I really didn't know much about horses at that point. And so I knew this world of horse trainers is massive, and who do you listen to? So what I did was I got on YouTube. This was about a year and a half before I ever even had a horse of my own. And I watched every single video I could freaking watch on YouTube about horse training from every trainer out there, every discipline. I watched videos of English trainers and dressage riders to cowboys, everything in between. And I didn't so much watch those videos to get techniques out of them at that point. I was more watching them to figure out which trainers I wanted to listen to. Because you can't follow one trainer's curriculum all the way through to decide if you like it. You just don't have enough time to take a horse all the way through that, and then take a horse all the way through the next one, and all the way through the next one. There's too many, methods out there to do that. So I'm watching all these trainers, and I'm like, which one of these do I really latch onto and go with? And the way I did it is I watched the way their horses act, the ones that they actually trained. And, obviously a lot of these videos are somebody gets a problem horse in from the public, and, you don't hold them accountable for that horse necessarily. But when you watch enough of some of these videos, you can tell the kind of horse that their method produces. And that's what I really paid attention to. And that's what I want to encourage you guys to pay attention to, because I just don't see that enough. Like, to me, that's kind of obvious. But looking around at the horse world, I don't really see that being done a lot. And I'll give you a story that illustrates that. I had some clients a little while back who I was training a horse for them. And they had taken the horse to a different trainer before they started working with me. And it had not gone well. And this is not a trainer anywhere around here. It's not local to Colorado Springs or Denver. But they'd had a really bad experience with this trainer. Ended up having to get the horse back. I think the horse was supposed to stay there for a month. They ended up bringing it back early. They felt like the trainer was abusing it. And it was just a really bad experience. And it took them a while to actually, I think the trainer did damage to the horse, and it took them time to actually fix that. And so then they're working with me, and I was like, that's really strange to me. Like, how would you trust a trainer enough to give them your horse for a month and then the trainer does something really bad like that? And so I asked him, I was like, so what horses did you see of that trainer that the trainer had trained himself that made you want your horses to be more like that? Because it seems strange to me that he would use those bad techniques on your horse, but he would have used good techniques on his own horse. That's what you saw that made you want to use him in the first place. And they were like, well, it was a referral from a friend, and we never really even saw any horses that he trained. They were like, I don't think he had any horses that he trained himself on his property. I was like, wait a second. So you took this horse that you treat like that, you love. They love their horse, and that's great. They love it like a kid, and they take very good care of their horses. But then they dropped it off with this trainer, and they didn't do any, what in financial business we call it due diligence. They didn't do any research and see whether this trainer was going to be using, or not even whether he's going to be using techniques that they liked, but what was the end product that the trainer normally gets a horse to. So what I try to do when people bring or want me to work on their horses, I try to show them at least a couple of my own horses, all the way from a new colt that I'm working on. Maybe I've only been working on it for a few months or something, wherever I'm at. And I also try to show them a nice, pretty close to finished horse, like the best horse I've got, and show them this is where I get my horses to. And when they start out, this is kind of what they look like. And, I just want to be very upfront about that stuff. And I think we do that in other areas of life, but for some reason, maybe a lot of us don't do that in the horse world. So I just want to encourage you, when you're thinking about trainers, or either to instruct you and teach you how to ride, or when you're looking at who you want to take your horse to for training, look at the end product that they normally create. Like, a good example is my instructor, Dave Dillman, down the street from us. Fantastic horseman. He has horses that I want my horses to be more like. Like, he is the one, I see other people on TV and stuff, but out of all the people I know, he's the one that I look at his horses and I go, man, I wish my horses could be like that. That's the person you want to go take lessons from and get training from. Let me go dump this load of muck. I'm going to move over to that pen over there, and I'm going to tell you one more story that illustrates what I'm talking about. Be right back. And we're back. So I wanted to share this little story that illustrates what I was talking about a second ago. So for college, I went to West Point, graduated from there. If you're not familiar with West Point, it's the United States Military Academy. So everybody that graduates from there gets commissioned into the Army as an officer. And when I was in late high school trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life and where I was going to go to college, or if I was going to go to college, I decided to go to these two summer camps that West Point and Annapolis, which is the Navy's version, the Naval Academy, they host these summer camps for kids going from their junior year to their senior year of high school. And the idea of the camp, it's a 1 week thing. You spend the week at the academy, and you get to kind of live the life of a cadet. You go to some classes. They do quite a bit of military training, and the idea is just to show you whether or not that's what you really want to do, because the academy is, once you enter that first day, called our day, nobody else can enter that class for the entire 4 years. Or really, you could almost think about it for the entire 20 years of your career, because everybody starts at the beginning at West Point. There's no transferring in 2 years later. So they have a vested interest in not allowing people to come and test it out and not like it and then quit because they cannot fill that slot again. So contrary to what a lot of people think, it's, like SEAL training or something like that, it's all about attrition. West Point's really not. Once you get there, they want you to stay. Now, it doesn't mean it's not difficult and there's not high standards and whatnot, and a lot of people do wash out, but they would much rather filter you out before you ever even get to West Point the first day. So that's what these two camps are all about. By the way, I highly recommend them if you or your kid are getting to that stage. You don't have to go to the academy by any measure to go to the camp, but I would highly recommend everybody go to the camp if they can. So anyway, first I went to a week at West Point, and then as soon as I got done with that, went right over to Annapolis, and I went to a week camp at Annapolis. And I came out of the camp at West Point thinking, I definitely want to go to West Point. I'm pretty sure this is what I want to do. And I was like, let me check out Annapolis. Maybe I'll like it better. And I got done with the week in Annapolis thinking, yeah, pretty sure I want to go to West Point. the reason was not really so much about like the campus or the food or even the academics or the military training or really any of that kind of thing. It really was about the people. And in particular, it was the cadets and the midshipmen is what they call it at the Naval Academy. The cadets at West Point were across the board mature. They just kind of had a stature about them that was confident, that was well articulated, and just somebody you would look at and you go, wow, I want to be more like that. And then at the Naval Academy, pretty much across the board, it was just, for lack of a better term, kind of slouchy. I don't mean like posture, but I mean like just the attitude was a little bit more, really kind of don't want to be here. And, kind of just not really what I wanted to be like. And so I literally said to myself, well, if West Point seems to produce this product because you have 1,000 cadets that you're looking at, and across the board, pretty much all of them are this way, and you have Annapolis that seems to produce people this way, I don't believe that everybody who goes to West Point was just naturally, had a good being about them, and naturally everybody that goes to Annapolis is kind of slouchy. I'm sure it's not that. I think it's the institution that creates them to be that way. And so I said, well, I obviously want to go to the place that's going to create me into this product. So I tell that story because that's exactly how it is when you're picking horse trainers, or when you're picking methodologies to follow with your own horse. Look at the finished product of that trainer and say, is this what I want my horses to be like or not? And that's really the biggest question you have to ask. And then so getting back to the haters thing, if you get a comment on your social media or you get a comment in person and somebody's trying to tell you whatever, I'm not even focusing on what the thing that the person is telling you is, because it may be right or it may be wrong. Even the best trainers might tell you something wrong from time to time. But before you even think about what they're telling you, think about, do I want my horses to be more or less like what their horses are like? And then if the answer is I want my horses to be more like them, then you should probably go ahead and try out what they're saying regardless. Like if Dave tells me something to do something and I think, I don't think that's right, well, I'm still going to try it because his horses are better than mine. And until my horses are better than his, I'm going to try to do what he's doing. Now, at some point, nobody's perfect. Everybody's human. I may figure out after some trial and error, actually, he's right on a lot of stuff, but maybe there's this one thing that he's not right on. And, maybe I don't copy him on that and we move forward. Maybe even someday he learns from me on that, Nothing in specific I'm thinking of. I'm just saying. But your initial reaction should always be, I'm going to do the thing that they're doing. I'm going to go seek out what, even if they're not telling me to do something, I'm going to seek out what are they doing different from me that they're getting such better results. And then the flip side is true too. If somebody's telling me to do something and I look at them and go, well, your horses are crappy, or you don't even train horses, you don't even have any horses, you don't ever ride, I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. So anyway, maybe some food for thought as to how to navigate this whole horse industry thing where everybody thinks they know everything, everybody's got an opinion, and everybody's trying to be a hater if you actually succeed. So anyway, till next time, muck it.